What's up, guys? Aaron Impens here again. Today we're going to talk a little bit about realtors. Some people don't like them. Is there an advantage to using one? Is there a disadvantage to using one? Should you, shouldn't you? We're going to have a conversation with my good buddy Derek Katz. He's a realtor here in town, and we'll see what he has to say. What's up, guys? Aaron Impens again. Just want to introduce my good buddy Derek. How you doing?
Good to meet you.
Yeah.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Tell us who you work with, kind of a little bit of your background as well.
Yep, for sure. Well, I work with you, number one guy that I work
sure.
with, but my overall company is Keller Williams Lincoln. It was founded about 5 or 6 years ago, and Keller Williams National is the largest real estate company in the world. They have the Triple Crown, which is most agents, most sales, and transactional volume.
Awesome.
Yep. I also have a real estate team here in Lincoln, Katz and Associates Real Estate Group, which you're familiar with on the side that we work together.
Absolutely.
Has about 10 agents with it. I'm a team manager, which is a little bit different than a traditional sales agent. So I'm no longer in production, but I work with a team of agents underneath me that do kind of our in-field sales. So our strategy and setup's a little bit different than your traditional one-off realtor.
Yeah, perfect. There's investors out there. They want to know, should they work with a real estate agent when they're going out to buy their first investment property or maybe their 10th investment property?
Yep.
So assuming that you're going to say yes, you should, tell me some reasons as to why they should work with a real estate agent.
Yep. Well, I'll give a pretty unbiased answer. Obviously knowing I have a horse in the race, being that I'm a realtor. So with that said, I do feel that utilizing a realtor is important in specific situations. In the beginning, I definitely believe realtors are important to use because they're going to be the ones that give you all of your resources. They're going to help you with your lenders. They're going to help you with your title companies. They're going to help you with your hard money lenders to get you loans. And they're also going to get you into networking groups. Notice the one thing that wasn't prominently featured there was properties, which is kind of the go-to that most people think of when hiring a realtor to help. As an investor and in the current digital marketing technology that we're in with Zillow and other resources, the finding of the property is becoming more of a team effort between the agent and the agent and the investor, versus in the old days when the agent held the book of all the properties, the investor had to come to the agent. So in a modern team setup where the agent is more of a fiduciary for the consumer or for the investor, it works a lot better that we provide resources and more value than just traditionally finding a property or opening a door for you guys.
Yeah, perfect. And when if you're not well versed in the real estate world, finding those title companies or those mortgage brokers or maybe even who to network with can be tough. I mean, which ones are the correct ones to go to? Sure. Having an opinion from someone that's in it is definitely valuable. That's all good, but how do we go about finding the right real estate agent? What should we look for when we're out there looking for that right real estate agent to work with?
Yep, kind of depends your initial needs. Availability is one side of the spectrum, and experience and resources the other end. Traditionally, a realtor who's highly available is very low on resources or experience. On the other end, an agent who's very high on resources is low on availability. Sure. In our setup, that's why we have a team structure. So I can provide the value, whereas the agents that are in the field provide the availability. So when you first start, it really depends how involved you want to be. If you want to buy one property and just do a lot of due diligence, it's probably worth you getting an agent who has more availability. They can show you the market, they can get you around, they can, in theory, waste some time as you learn, which is fine because they have the faith in you that you're going to build into something.
Right.
With that said, if you're looking to build your practice or build your investment portfolio quickly, you're going to want to get with the realtor has more experience and more resources so they can leverage what they're doing for you. You may have to take a little bit more risk on, the risk being trusting the partner that you're working with, the realtor that you're working with. That's going to be the biggest criteria that you need to work with there.
Yeah, okay. And talking about growing your portfolio quickly, having an agent with a little bit more experience that maybe not as much time, they're going to be able to come to you or come with you and say, hey, I like this property for X reason, and the investor can say, oh yeah, that's a good idea, or vice versa. The investor can say, hey, what do you think about this, or give me your opinion about this, and why would that make it a good
Right.
property? I mean,
Yep.
there's definitely some value there as well.
Or if you work with me, I give you a code, you go walk through the house, and you come back and tell me what you think about it. So
Yeah.
both ends on the availability there for sure. So.
Absolutely. So again, as an investor that may or may not know values very well, what can a realtor do there to help with that? Because investment properties can be tricky, you know.
Yep.
Whether you're looking to flip or buy as a rental, whether it's in complete disrepair or rent ready or already rehabbed.
Yep.
Like how can the real estate agent offer value advice there?
Yeah, well, however many options of differences you threw out there is exactly why putting an ARV or a CMA package value on a property is very difficult. When I meet with initial investors, I tell them that that is probably the most difficult thing. And if we could tell you the exact number, it would make investing easy. Take the risk out of the property. So really, from the realtor perspective, we struggle with new investors because we don't know how the remodel is going to be. Everybody says they're going to remodel it great, and we'll get in there and it's a subpar remodel.
Sure.
And others say that they're going to go into it and barely spend anything, and then they double what their budget is. So traditionally, if you find a realtor who's trying to give you a specific dollar amount, that's probably too much of an expert. What you really need is somebody who's going to give you a range that says ultimately you're going to end up here in this bottom part of this range. If things aren't up to par, if things are over improved, you're probably going to be in this part of the range. So getting that market analysis from the realtor is important. That kind of piggybacks on the experience part, because an experienced agent can do a good market analysis. There's not many ways you can cheat experience when it comes to market analysis. Going through and having 500 plus listings like we have gives us the ability to go back on our own listings, but actually understand what the property was versus just looking at it in pictures. So the market analysis is the most difficult part. With most of our investors, we are going to run a market analysis. The investor is going to run a market analysis.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and from there, we're going to kind of combine and see where we're at. Realtor typically comes in lower than the investor. Investor comes in higher. And that is one of the good kind of symbiotic relationships where the realtors constantly trying to put a price on it that's more reasonable, that will sell quickly, and the investor puts a price on it that's going to maximize the value, and then meeting in the middle ends up being the best on those two.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, you know, you and I have many years of experience in working together. You know, we're part of each other's team,
Yep,
you could say.
100%.
As that you mentioned, some investors maybe do a subpar or not to what you expect type of rehab, or other investors may look at a different property and see a certain thing, and you're assuming they're seeing this,
Yep.
and I'm assuming I'm seeing this. As you get to work together and have that experience together, next thing you know, that range that you've put together for
Yep.
me starts to narrow it down. And 9 times out of 10, we call each other and say, hey, what do you think X, Y, and Z is worth? And you know, we're right there in the exact same ballpark.
Yep,
So
for certain.
good to have someone that you can grow that relationship with long term.
Yep,
Bounce those
definitely.
ideas off of.
Yep, and you know, talking about that long-term growth, one thing that's really important that investors understand, new investors understand, is this is a similar business to any other business in our economy. The difference is investors such as yourself and wholesalers don't have a physical structure building with a giant sign of it that says I'm a real estate investor, like they would when they drive by my real estate brokerage.
Sure.
So entry-level investors get the idea that it's not set up like a traditional business structure with people who've been in it with lots of experience, who have the resources, who get properties cheaper, versus a new investor who has to get in somewhere into the stream. So if we're talking about roofing companies, it's very easy to say, okay, well, if I'm the new roofing company and I just came to your town and I start in this new job, how do I get in?
Right.
Well, I can either have better, resources than everybody else, which typically the new person in the game doesn't.
Right.
I can have more finances than everyone else, so I can market more and do that. Typically the new person doesn't. So how a new person in almost any industry gets in, or how a roofer would get in, is they bid the project a little bit cheaper.
Sure.
In investor world, that's equivalent to paying a little bit more for the property than the next person.
Sure.
So newer investors have to understand that they typically will have to pay a little bit more than the experienced investor who's been in the market for a while. or they may end up purchasing from that experienced investor. The experienced investor can pick up 5 properties at well below market value. They can sell one that's still below market value, and that's a good enough deal for the actual investor who's getting in, because that investor is typically doing some of the labor themselves, whereas a full-scale investor doesn't have the time to do the labor themselves on the projects.
Yeah.
So I feel that's one of the big advantages of actually getting in with a new investor. So
Yeah, and just because you're saying that new investor may have to pay a little bit more, it doesn't mean that they're overpaying by any means.
it doesn't mean they'll make more or less than me and you. They may actually make more than us by paying more for the property because they have advantages on the labor side, or possibly they bought it with all their cash, so they have no carrying costs since they're one property. So
Yeah, and as long as they end up buying with a criteria that they've set,
Yep.
or that maybe even you guys have come up with,
Yep.
based on opinions from you and experience from you, or an agent, I
Yep.
should say. As long as they're buying on that criteria, it doesn't matter if they're paying a little bit more than, say, the next person,
Yep.
because they've set what they want to make, and they've
Yep.
set the standards of how they want to invest. Perfect.
Yep, definitely. Yep.
Okay. You got any questions for me?
I have one comment that I'd like to put out there that kind of see what your perspective is, and I do have a question on your perspective on the market upcoming.
Okay.
The one thought that I wanted to put out is I have found that a lot of agents or realtors will kind of solicit their pocket listings. That is one of the larger values of a realtor. From what we've seen is that ultimately a realtor typically has 1 or 2 buyers that they can send all their pocket listings to. So if we're able to get in on the side of an investor, what do you think would be a good question investors can ask realtors, and vice versa? I can give the good response on it or the good perspective that allows them to understand that you're the investor that's getting their pocket listings. Do you feel it's something that investors should just go right out and ask the realtor, hey, are you working with somebody directly already? Because that's kind of the unknown secret in this industry. Realtors will go and solicit 5, 6 investors, but when it comes down to it, they've got 1 or 2. They know that if they get a deal, they can sell it to that person immediately. So how do you know if the realtor you want to work with, is that person? Do you think it's just something they should directly ask them?
Yeah, I think you touched on it actually, where you said that the realtor is ultimately going to know that 1 or 2 people that are just going to be able to make the decision and pull the trigger. So whether you're new or experienced, being able to have a set criteria where you know what you're going to buy and then being able to move on that, I think is going to be valuable. As far as talking to that real estate agent about it, yeah, why not? Be open about it and say, hey, I understand you may have other clients. What does this look like? If you get a pocket listing, is that coming to me only, or is that going to go to 10 other people or 20 other people, or does that? If it goes to that many people, is it even any longer a pocket listing?
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense.
So yeah,
okay, yeah.
I
Be
think
direct on it then. Yeah.
I think it's worth asking and having that conversation and understanding that maybe you're not the person for that specific pocket listing. So, for instance, maybe you have a couple people that you send things to where buyer A buys this type of property with this type of criteria, where buyer B has this type of property and this type of criteria. So there can be something to be said about that, and being open. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being open as well. So and upfront. So
I could see that.
Yeah.
From a realtor perspective, if I heard that comment, I'd be a little taken aback. I'm surprised, not offended by any means, but surprised that somebody, especially a newer investor, was knowledgeable like that on how kind of the inside of the system goes. So if they are, I would. And an investor is struggling to get in, I think it would be appealing from my side to hear them say, hey, I understand that you probably have a buyer, an investor who's, your primary guy, but if he doesn't want it, keep me in mind as your backup, and I'll, kind of prove my position as I buy. So
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I did have one question that's been going around a lot in the realtor world. And this isn't bad. It's probably a good thing when it comes down to it. But the upcoming market shift, whether it's upon us now, which it doesn't appear that it is, whether political cycle have influence on that. Nevertheless, the market does shift. It's proven over time. Are you doing anything right now, strategy-wise, looking at the upcoming market shift? And when we talk about it, it's kind of twofold. It's not just market shift where people say traditionally, oh, prices have dropped. That's what a market shift has always looked like in the past. But the market shift in the future could be price drop, but it's also going to be the way that real estate is sold. The technology and the packages that it's sold under are now going to, on the realtor side, remove realtors from the spectrum. On the investor side, wholesaling will slowly start going away as these iBuyer programs become available. Now again, we're in conservative Lincoln where this may be a 5 to 10 year structure versus the coastal areas where in some areas you get on Zillow and there's no realtors there any longer. It's just Zillow selling every property in those. So just kind of your overall perspective on that, knowing that the market shift may not be the doom and gloom like we normally see, and it may end up being removing certain players from the market that probably shouldn't have been in there anyways, and then making the remaining ones more prosperous.
Yeah, I mean it's inevitable that you're going to have those ups and downs in the market price wise. That's to be expected. As along those lines, what you're going to do, you know, I know I've said this many times already, but if you've got a set criteria and you're buying based on that, it doesn't matter if the price is going up or down.
Yeah, true.
Because you're still cash flowing if it's a rental, or you're still understanding where you're at in the market if it's a flip and what the potential resale value is. And again, flips, you know, if you're holding those things longer than 3-4 months, it's flips are very short term. So a market isn't going to go from January 1 to January 31 and be from here to here. So that can be accounted for. As far as on the realtor side, I get excited on the realtor side for working with someone that maybe has those systems or that technology that's up and coming or that's going to be new, because all that's going to do inevitably is help my business as well. It's if I'm not already trying to move forward in that direction or some sort of that direction, it may force me to move forward in that direction, which as you mentioned, as things shift that way, you have to adapt and move along with it as well.
Choose what operating system you're going to use.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So I think it's a good thing. And if you're not able to adapt and adjust your system with it, I mean, it's just like anything else. You'll get left in the dust. But yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Interesting. Okay. One thing that I think I could add a little value to anybody that's watching this with you, whether it's from the investor side or the realtor side, kind of realtor help. From my realtor perspective, the number one thing that I can offer my clients is financing. As we started with, and we'll kind of end with, the finding of the property being the realtor's primary value is going away, whether it's retail properties or it's investment properties. Because of how technology's set up, because of how iBuyer programs, because of how large investors are becoming full scale and taking things on, it is making it very, very difficult for everyone to find properties, let alone just the realtor. So the property finding has become a team thing. The number one thing that I've been able to help my clients with is the financing side. And that is traditionally not traditional bank financing, conventional bank financing in the beginning, because most investors are becoming investors because they don't have money and they want to get into the business to make money. I wish all the investors that came to me were people that had six-figure year incomes and said, hey, I just want to park some money somewhere. But as you know, we started from literally the bottom and worked our way up buying the $30,000 properties that don't even exist in Lincoln anymore. So my demographic that I serve isn't that. I'm guys that are trying to make it and get in. So the hard money lending that you and other people provide is by far the top value. So realtors who are watching or investors alike, that tool is the number one thing. Because if you can find that deal, the hard money finances it, all the other financing will come from that. Whether it's finding an investment partner or finding a bank that will back you on it. If you have a deal on a property that you bought and you in theory own outright through your hard money lending or another hard money lender, banks then love to refinance that. It's not originating the loan. They don't have to take as big of a risk on you because you already own the property and have a ton of equity. So I'd say that's the biggest value that I've seen as a realtor recently that I can offer people, because it's the jump start. And even somebody who has financing, that allows them to leverage it and double or triple what they're looking at buying.
Absolutely 100% agree. And I wish that is explained better to more people, because I talk to many people and they don't one, didn't even know about that option, or two, don't fully understand it
Yep.
yet. So it's so valuable, especially for someone that, like you say, doesn't have that stack of cash to be able to invest right
100%,
away.
yep.
So
Yep, definitely.
yeah, I want to ask you kind of the same question, but from my perspective is, from an investor that wants to work with an agent, what can that investor do to be attractive to you as the real estate agent that says, okay, yeah, it's worth my time. Not that you're going to turn people away, but it's worth my time to invest in this person, bring them into the team.
Yep.
What could an investor do or say to become that valuable?
On that side, on the dual interview process, realtors are typically the one interviewing with the client. I'm on a listing presentation trying to solicit my services. A entry level agent will also do the same with, try to solicit their services to investors. An experienced realtor who does investment properties, it's the opposite. They are interviewing the client that comes in.
Okay.
They understand that I have X amount of positions I can fill with buyers, and once they're filled and they're quality buyers, I don't need to look for anyone else, because then I'm just battling my own clients against each other.
Exactly.
So that's one of the bigger things that, from a realtor perspective, it really depends which realtor you're talking with. So that's a good way to find out how full-time and how experienced your realtor is. If they're wanting to interview you to take you on as a client, or if you are interviewing them to become your realtor.
So yeah, it's going to be the same. You guys are looking for the same thing that
Yep.
say we should be looking for is, hey, how available is this person?
Yeah.
What's their
Yep.
personality
Exactly.
like? What's their buying ability like?
Yep.
Things like that.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Yep,
okay.
definitely. And my biggest one in my personal practice is how aggressive somebody wants to be. In my residential investment strategy, and along with yours and anybody that I've worked with, we've all been very aggressive.
Sure.
The overall theory of, you have $100,000 to start, are you going to buy one property outright for $100,000, or are you going to buy 5 properties for 20% down from a bank, or are you going to leverage hard money and buy 10 properties?
There you go.
So I'm obviously on the farthest side.
Yes.
We were buying and doing about 10 properties a year, and then we found out how to leverage hard money and leverage banks, and literally the next year we bought and sold 36 properties. Total. So we kept a couple rentals on the side of that as well, and that was literally just from understanding how to take the money and leverage it against itself.
Yeah. So it's amazing what you can do when you understand that, or when you partner with someone that understands it or has the money to be able to help do that as well. So,
yeah, for sure, definitely. Yep, that's the biggest part.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all I got for today. That was fun. You got anything else for me?
Nope, that was good. That was
all
good.
right, man. Well, yeah.
Time to get back to 2020.
I appreciate you coming in.
Yes, sir.
I don't know about you, but that was a hell of a meeting. There was a lot of good information that came out of that. Kind of blows my mind sometimes. I love talking to Derek. He's full of knowledge. We bounce ideas around with each other all the time. One of the things you want to recap is what he said or what we said. Interviewing a real estate agent, finding out where they can add value. Maybe it's they're more available, but they have a little bit less knowledge. Maybe that'll work for you, or vice versa. Maybe they're less available, but have more resources and more knowledge that can help. Those are things that you want to take into consideration when you're talking to one. They're going to do the same when they interview you. As Derek mentioned as well, he's got a lot of knowledge and resources when it comes to the financing side of things and understanding how to leverage a bank's financing or even some hard money financing. So hope you got something out of that. If you want to keep tuning in, get some more info, some tips, some knowledge from me, make sure and smash that subscribe button. Give me some likes, and we'll see you guys next time.